How did this Greek world rebuild? How did this ravaged kingdom resurrect? What is the extent of the power of hope to enable man to recover from this destruction? In this sequence, the Greek pantheon is highlighted for two very distinct reasons in my opinion. First reason is obviously because it is the geographical area of the first 6 games of the franchise, the central mythology where the ghost of Sparta lived his worst nightmare. This mythology is the heart of the God of War games, but its representation here is not only a reminder to Kratos and to the player of the lands they once knew. This mural represents the hope that the gods can be good. That the gods can be good. What if this mural represented a very specific story? And if the diplomatic encounter of Tyr in this mythology was one of the first proof that the gods and mortals can live together in harmony? And if this segment is a proof that the power of hope diffused throughout Greece by the sacrifice of Kratos is not reduced to giving hope to humanity, but also to spreading hope and goodness to the important gods still remaining in Greece, allowing them to use their natural power to help the mortals still remaining. And if Tyr had perceived such fairness, such justice on this journey that he found one more reason to share and experiment diplomacy all over the world. This is the theory that I will elaborate today by expressing to you step by step each role that the remaining gods played in this reconstruction. In this rebuild of the Greek world, 8 deities have assembled and worked together to rebalance this kingdom. Just like Freya who established a council in the Norse world, the 8 divinities of my theory also established a council with the presence of mortals. The equality between gods and humans is now the result of the destruction of Olympus, and I am very excited to present you the gods who have united to work for peace and justice. Themis, the goddess of justice. In Greek mythology, Themis is the goddess and personification of justice, divine order, law and custom. She is one of the 12 Titan children of Gaia and Uranus, and the second wife of Zeus and also her advisor. Themis is for me a main element of this reconstruction for 2 reasons. Firstly, because putting her power at the service of mortals and hope will be an excellent way for her to redeem herself for the lost time she spent as an advisor to Zeus, having certainly played alongside him some very bad acts in the name of justice. Being able to recreate the world from a new angle in the name of peace and real justice that favors an equitable relationship between human and deities will be very great for the characters. Secondly, because her divine power has always been predestined to be at the service of the people and the balance of the world. Unlike Kratos was simply misused. Liberation of hope now allows the god to see things from a new perspective. Now that there is no longer the authority of Olympus, a world in peace can be perfectly established and consolidated by her power. She will also be the deity who fairly settled the disorder of the wandering souls released by Kratos in God of War 3. Time to move on to our second character. Demeter, the new goddess of hell. In Greek mythology, Demeter is the goddess of fertility and harvest. Demeter also had a kind and beautiful daughter, called Persephone. To elaborate my theory, I will base myself on the main story of this deity in mythology, and transpose it with the events of the God of War games. When Hades, ruler of the dead, kidnapped Persephone to make her his wife, Demeter went in search of her. During her research, she abandoned the harvest of the earth. Seeing that famine threatened mortals, Zeus sent his messenger, Hermes, to the kingdom of Hades to ask him to return Persephone to her mother. But the young goddess had eaten 6 pomegranate seeds that Hades gave to her. The tradition is that anyone who eats in the kingdom of the dead can no longer leave him. Zeus got Persephone to spend the winter in hell with her husband and the rest of the year with her mother. Coming back to God of War now. In God of War Chains of Olympus, Persephone is one of the rare antagonists of the old games with understandable motivations. She wishes to destroy the kingdom of the god for what they stole from her. The god killer will find himself forced to oppose her because the Elysium is put in danger by her disastrous ambitions. Kratos cannot allow his daughter to die one more time. Persephone truly suffered the misfortune of having been abused by the gods, obviously by her father, but I also think by her mother, Demeter, and her inaction. As I said before, Demeter is a goddess linked to the earth and fertility, so she could play a major role on the healing of the Greek world with a deity that I will mention later. But I also think that she could play the role of the goddess of hell in Elysium. In God of War 3, Kratos captured the soul of Hades, which caused the flight of all the imprisoned souls into the world. Earlier, I had speculated that with Artemis, the new reconstructive god harmoniously communicated their role to her in order to establish a perfect balance in this world. So Demeter, by taking the role of her daughter and her son-in-law alongside Themis to fairly judge the exiled and dangerous souls, will now permit her to redeem herself from the abandonment of her daughter. And about this topic, let me present you my theory of the future of the God of War games to put a context on an encounter between Atreus and Demeter. I'm currently writing a script of God of War 6 that will merge all my ideas about the future of the franchise, and the segment in Greek mythology feeds into my hopes for a sequel. In my story of God of War 6, Atreus goes directly into Celtic mythology after his departure from Midgard. During his journey in Celtic mythology, he crossed the world of several deities. He mainly crossed the world of the legendary hero, Cuchulainn. Cuchulainn is one of the most legendary heroes of this mythology, and his reputation is mainly due to his legendary death tied to a stone after getting stabbed and betrayed by a warrior. In my vision of the journey of Atreus in this mythology, the gods introduce themselves in a very pleasantly way. But later in his adventure, Atreus will find himself forced to confront Cuchulainn in a very tragic battle, because in this alliteration of the story, Cuchulainn is a very arrogant hero, jealous of the prowess of the champion of the Jotnar. In this battle, Atreus will leave for dead the fallen hero, forcing the Jotun to exile to the east in order to escaping the wrath of the gods of this pantheon. During this time, Kratos in his side engaged travel in the Aztec world for a reason that I will explain in a video especially about the future of the God of War games. Anyway, Atreus during his unexpected departure from the United Kingdom crossed a good part of Europe till arriving on Greek lands. It is important for me that Atreus in this part of his travel is restless and confused. The Greek land in this part of the game has to be a comfort for the character of Atreus, to make a contrast between the new games of Atreus and the old God of War games, where the Greek lands was violent and hostile. This contrast will also be a part of the new gods that Atreus will meet in this land, and Demeter is a perfect example of it. She was like a lot of the gods that we knew in Greece. She ignored her daughter's suffering and complained, and now she has the possibility to make good decisions. If Atreus meets her at one moment of the story, I see the scene approach in a very interesting way, because Demeter is a mother who blamed herself for the choices she made and the consequences of her action in the life of her child. At the end of their conversation, Demeter may be able to grant him the right to meet Calliope and Lysandra. Just imagine this scene. That would be absolutely insane, even more if Atreus later in the story managed to see his father again and tell him that his family forgives him. The world is not ready for a reunion of Atreus and Kratos, no matter the context. Artemis. Artemis, in my opinion, will play a powerful and inspiring role in the reconstruction of the pantheon. She could have used her power by carrying foods to mortals. I elected Artemis as the first potential meeting of Atreus. Artemis, being a deity close to the people in this reality, she will be the first to discover and identify Atreus, thanks to her hunting skills and instinct. I also think that Artemis could identify Atreus with these very specific clothing elements. Artemis could play an extremely refreshing role in the history of Atreus by getting him to the main new city of Greece. I would really love to see interaction between Atreus and this character. As for the reconstruction of the pantheon, Artemis does not replace any gods, the real gift being simply to help for the cause of humans, which makes her presence and humanity truly unique. Apollo, the new sun god. Apollo is considered an altruistic god filled with hope and protection for the humans, but he has very interesting characteristics to feed my theory. In Greek myths, we know two sun gods, Helios and Apollo. I think you see where I'm going. Even if mortals have the hope to be reborn again, their existence could only end up reclusive in caves and confronted forever with darkness. The arrival of Apollo to restore the sun could allow other deities to use their power on Earth for the benefits of humanity. Let's not forget that Apollo is a god of music. His role is therefore very precious, knowing that Greece is now known in the universe of God of War for its cultural and musical richness. Do you remember his design in God of War Ascension, how he seems heroic and noble? Well, in my God of War sequel, Apollo will rarely appear to Atreus simply because I would like to keep him for future games. I want him to be able to interact with Kratos. Even more if a multi-mythological war were to take place. See this god show fraternity to Kratos. Two Greek gods working together for mankind will be, in my opinion, absolutely awesome and spectacular. I think Apollo is a good symbolical hero of this mythology. Dionysus, the god of alcohol and festivity. I included Dionysus in the pantheon for a specific and quite comical reason. The running gag characters are quite recurring in the God of War franchise, and I personally think that Dionysus will be absolutely perfect in this war, but not for the reason you believe. You remember, in God of War Ragnarok, throughout the game, Kratos can encounter some collectible poems that can be picked up anywhere in the game. Those poems made by Kvasir tells the story of several PlayStation games. And well, Dionysus will play the same role this time, but in a holy way, simply because Dionysus is the mythological equivalent of Kvasir. Born of the spit of Vanir and Aesir gods, he represents the incarnation of divine wisdom. After his death, his blood became mead that Odin drank to obtain knowledge and wisdom. In God of War Ragnarok, the knowledge of this deity is broadcast in poem expressing the history of other PlayStation games. And honestly, I would love to see a Dionysus drunken talk about mushroom zombies, weird animals and thieves. Give me your opinion about this theory, because I appreciate it very much. Aphrodite, the goddess of love. I do not think there is much to change in this character, except that it will be important that after all this time, her conception of love has evolved for the goods of mortals. That even if she can find her balance, she can at least try to give some of her power to humanity. As I told you, I do not think there is much to add to this character, but it will be interesting to see her more mature and aware of her power. Hestia, goddess of the earth. Hestia in mythology is one of the 12 Olympian, sister of Demeter and Zeus. She is the virgin goddess of the earth and home, sadly underrated in our culture. The God of War franchise did not give her an important place either. History will perhaps change that. I love Hestia in mythology, and I certainly think this will be the greater value of this new pantheon of protective deities for a specific reason. Her basic function is the care and protection of the weak. It perfectly embodies what this world has always needed, and now even more. The powers of this goddess are absolutely crucial to allow this world to reborn, to revitalize all that was lost, cursed, destroyed. Maybe that this flame is the domestic fire of Hestia. Maybe that this city, these people, are under the protection of this goddess. Maybe she loves them with a real love, who knows. Anyway, like a genius once said, Hestia is bestia. Aegir, the new sea god. This is my favorite fairy. Indeed, Aegir is the only character of my fairy who is not Greek. But on the contrary, Aegir is an important giant of the Norse mythology. And I think you see where I'm going with this one. Indeed, like Kratos, he could play a primordial and important role on the reconstruction of a kingdom. But this time the savior is not Greek, but Norse. Aegil would have taken over the function of the god of the seas by stabilizing the ravaged sea of this world. I also think that Aegil could help Atreus to continue his quest. Let me explain. After his arrival in the Greek kingdom, the gods finally revealed to him the last person that had played a major role in this world. And this person will also be a giant like him. Aegil could have exiled himself from Scandinavia long before the exile of the giants. Maybe he lost his wife, Ran, forcing him to make a new start, to find a new reason to live. Help this ravaged world would be the best opportunity for him to make a new start. Just like this mythology who is the subject of this video. Aegil could be a mentor for the character of Atreus, helping him to understand his nature and how to control his power. Maybe he can teach him some aquatic power, why not? A new Olympus. I tend to speculate that this place does not symbolize a simple Greek temple, but a brand new monument dedicated not to a cruel or powerful god, but a temple dedicated to the equality between gods and mortals, a place that marks the trust between these two species, and the promises that the gods will no longer abuse mortals. This temple reminds me of the temple of Zeus in Olympus, but it also reminds me of the Great Lodge. The Great Lodge of Odin is a simple place visually, far from the scale of Olympus, but it is specially made to hide the cruel ambition of his king. Here, our temple represents the simplicity of the New Greece, a place rich in culture and history that has risen from the ashes. Good God, what a joy it will be to see Greece from a new angle, under a new look, under a new aspect. If Kratos, after all he has done, could finally find the redemption, why not for Demeter and Themis? Why these poor mortals will not deserve the chance to survive and finally be respected and loved by the gods? The legacy of Prometheus is finally arrived. Men can finally believe that the gods are good. The Nordic games have shown us that the world can change. No matter what this world has gone through, or will go through, there is always hope. There is good in everything, and I'm extremely hyped to know the future of the franchise and the journey of the young Yotu.